Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm gonna be using the latest feature of Geometry Nodes. So this is Blender 3.0, still alpha, and we have one neat thing in this version of Geometry Nodes. So instead of using object collection for instance, we can also now use geometry. So we don't need to have like object outside to be instance, but we can do it inside geometry nodes. So for example, we can start with a mesh line, for example. So this will create just a line with 10 points. Okay, so this node will understand there are 10 points in this line, so we can instance 10 different objects. So in the past, we probably create another object and then just drag it in and pipe it in like this. But now you can actually do it from inside geometry nodes. For example, if you are using like a mesh circle and you pipe it in, let's delete Suzanne. So it doesn't seem to like something without face, so you want to create an n-gon at least. So now, okay, let's save this first. So instancing geo. So now we have like a single default cube that we didn't use. We simply replace it with a mesh line with a count and a circle that's already being instanced. Okay, cool, right? Pretty cool, I think. You can do the usual like randomize attribute. There's like hidden, so we only have crease and position, right? We actually have scale. We can use scale, which will affect the radius of points. So we can scale our instance. Okay, so yeah, I think this is cool. This is almost like in the Matrix, when Neo is doing the bullet time effect, you actually do this kind of thing. Like I mean, you can supposedly using like instance particles, but this is a similar thing. So just random circle on a line. Okay, so let's get rid of all this for now. So we have one example. Let me save another one. What's the next thing? We can try using, okay, let's use cube. If we have two cube and then we instance the points using the geometry, what's gonna happen here? We're gonna have this cube, like maybe like a smaller cube that's being instanced on the points of this cube. Okay, so that's pretty cool because we can do something that's a little bit more like a fractal, where we are using the points of this cube and we instance more cube. Like if you transform it, it's gonna get a little bit confusing at some point. So we want to use the points of this cube and then we transform it, or we do the opposite. Okay, maybe we use this, plug it this there, transform it. Okay, maybe took me a while with this fractal thing, but I think on Twitter Bartek Moniewski is doing this kind of fractal thing. So there's the node 3 here that you can, if you download the video, you get a higher resolutions. Okay. Oh, in this case, he is using like a mesh circle and he's making this Sierpinski triangle, kind of like a semi-fractal that's based on the circle. You can see the nodes here and try to replicate that. There's like a switch and add node here that I don't quite understand, but you can study that yourself. But yeah, it's possible to have cubes that's being instanced multiple times, so you can end up with something like this. So this is the correct way. In this case, I'm using Icosphere, but if I use the box, I think it's simpler. So the box being instanced. In this case, I'm also using the normal, but I can turn that off. So box that's being instanced on another box. So we end up with a lot of boxes that's being instanced on itself. Slightly confusing. And I'm also using this attribute randomize for the scale. So imagine all these boxes, and then you replace the smallest box with another box with 4 different instances, and you have smaller box and smaller box and smaller box, right? Slightly confusing maybe, but yeah, fractal is like that. It's not easy to understand because you create something that's really complex from something that's really simple, just like a simple algorithm. This is the Icosphere. If we make it like 3 subdivisions, my computer might just be frozen because it's pretty complex. Okay, yeah, it's like an embryo. Let's maybe not do that. Just delete. Restart Blender. So we've done like instancing of all kind of objects. We can try. We can also use curve, by the way. So start with a cube, create geometry nodes. Of course, we can use like a grid as well. If we have, okay, we use the grid. Instance geometry, we can use star. We can put stars on the grid. This is also really handy. In the past, actually, I'm using okay, stars maybe doesn't work because star doesn't have polygon. I might be wrong. Yeah, in this case, we might need to solidify the star or something. Yeah, this star doesn't work, but we can use other things. So the circle, of course, works because circle can have n-gon. So we can have grid of circle, any number, and of course we can randomize. Replace scale. Okay. Even this is pretty neat already, even though it's really simple. Yep. If you use vector, you can actually randomize the scale like that, so it's become like random ellipse. So this is already pretty cool. You can turn this circle into star, of course, using some setup. So this is grid and circle. So you can play around with this simple setup, point instance, and just replace this with anything. For example, instead of circle, you can have cylinder. Cylinder, of course, with cylinder, you can have different height. So kind of like array with different scaling. And you don't stop there, because instead of using grid, you can also use things like, you can use all these primitives. Curve curve is cool because curve have spiral. So you can try plugging the spiral, and spiral have points as well. So it's working right away. Let's try to not to randomize this first so we can see clearly. So now we have cylinder with depth, and we instance it on this spiral. Okay, that's cool. So we can adjust the height, we can adjust the start and the end radius. So we have like a some kind of Christmas tree or spiral stairs. So spiral can have resolutions, and you can do neat thing. Okay, this spiral is actually a curve, right? So you can use curve to mesh, or you can use resample curve, or you can also use curve to point. So there's a lot of things to turn this into something else. So I think if you use curve to points, you will see something magical happens. Okay, curve to points have some extra attributes that's being generated when you convert this spiral into a curve. So you can also use multiple all kind of different parameters like evaluated, or length is actually useful one. So based on the length of the spiral, it's gonna generate this instance of cylinder. So by doing this, now you can actually randomize the cylinder, scale. So you have something that's looking like more or less like a pipe. It's pretty neat. You can use none. Actually, none works in this case with cylinder, and then you can solidify. Okay, so you have like really like a pipe, and you can go inside the pipe and just go around in spiral. Yeah, if you want to do that, it's pretty neat. So you can have different depth. So this is like going over. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of things. Give it a try and try different various combinations. Basically mesh primitives. So cone, cube, cylinder, I didn't use everything. And also curve primitives, star and spiral, that's the obvious one. But try with a mesh circle as well. I think mesh circle is really powerful. Cone is like a cylinder actually. If we try plugging this, so see with a cone you can see the directions, and this also might be handy. So cone on the spiral, you get that right away. So you can use anything, including text objects. And yeah, try using it with sphere chalk. Maybe in the next video I will try to use sphere chalk as well. But there's a lot of unlimited potential here, and you can have multiple point instance. So you can have like let's say if you are like you have this being generated, and then if you use distributes, this point distribute, and then another point instance. So this is actually point data is what point instance is actually really like. So that's probably what you want to use. So I'm randomizing, I'm distributing points on my cone object on a spiral. You can see right away we can have some crazy procedurality with just simple logical nodes. Okay, remember spiral is actually a curve object, and we can rotate it as many times as we want, And if you're happy with this, you can actually use remesh. See, we can get like a poop object. Alright, so hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.